Ever wondered how the world would look if digital warriors took justice into their own hands? Welcome to the intriguing world of hacktivism, a fascinating blend of hacking and activism. It's a realm where digital warriors armed with keyboards and codes wage wars on the battleground of the internet. They're not seeking personal gain or random chaos. No, these are crusaders with a cause, using their skills to expose corruption, fight for freedom, and stand up for what they believe is just. Hacktivism was born in the late 20th century, a time when the internet was still a fledgling entity. It was a time of tremendous change, and as people began to realize the potential of the World Wide Web, so too did they recognize its power as a tool for change. The term hacktivism was coined in 1996 by a group known as Cult of the Dead Cow. It was defined as the use of hacking to promote or advance political or social causes, and from that moment, a new form of activism was born. Fast forward to the present, and the relevance of hacktivism has only grown. In a world increasingly dominated by digital platforms, where information is power and power is often abused, hacktivists have found their battleground. They've exposed corruption in governments, fought against corporate greed, and stood up for the rights of the oppressed. They've given a voice to the voiceless and shone a light on the dark corners of the internet. Yet, hacktivism is not without its controversy. It exists in a gray area of the law, and its practitioners often find themselves on the wrong side of it. It's a world where the line between hero and villain is often blurred. After all, one person's freedom fighter can be another's cybercriminal. The digital world has its heroes and villains, and sometimes they are one and the same. This is the paradox of hacktivism, a world where right and wrong are often subjective, and justice is served with a side of code. As we delve deeper into this underground world, remember this. In the realm of hacktivism, nothing is as it seems. The rise of hacktivism didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual process, fueled by the growing power of the internet. As the digital age dawned, a fresh breed of activists emerged who saw the internet as a powerful tool for change. These were not your typical placard-carrying, slogan-chanting protesters. They were a new species, a fusion of hacker and activist, the hacktivist. The early days of hacktivism were like the Wild West, uncharted and unpredictable. It was a time of exploration and discovery where the rules were yet to be written. The pioneers of this movement were not just tech-savvy individuals, they were visionaries who understood the immense potential of the internet to influence society. One of the first significant acts of hacktivism happened in the late 90s. A group known as the Electronic Disturbance Theater launched a series of virtual sit-ins to protest against the Mexican government's treatment of the Zapatista movement. This marked a turning point, demonstrating the power of collective action in the digital realm. As the new millennium rolled in, hacktivism continued to gain momentum. The causes championed by these digital activists varied widely, from advocating for freedom of information and net neutrality to exposing corporate misconduct and government surveillance. Hacktivism became a tool for the voiceless to be heard, for the invisible to be seen. But it wasn't just the causes that varied. The methods used by hacktivists also evolved. Some opted for peaceful digital protests, while others were more aggressive, employing tactics like website defacement, data leaks, and distributed denial-of-service attacks. Regardless of the method, the goal remained the same: to drive change. These early hacktivists did not just disrupt systems, they disrupted the status quo. They challenged the notion of power, proving that in the digital age, a keyboard could be just as mighty as a sword. With every action, there is a reaction, and in the world of hacktivism, these reactions have far-reaching consequences. As we delve deeper into the world of hacktivism, we'll uncover the impact of these actions and the ethical dilemmas they pose. In a world where data is the new oil, hacktivism has emerged as a powerful tool for change. Hacktivism, a portmanteau of hacking and activism, has left a significant imprint on our digital society. It's not just about breaking into systems or stealing data, it's about making a statement, pushing for change, and sometimes shaking the foundations of power. Let's consider the positive impacts first. Hacktivism has given a voice to the voiceless, a platform to the oppressed. It has exposed corruption, brought down tyrannical regimes, and shed light on issues that were once hidden in the shadows. It has been a catalyst for social and political change, from the Arab Spring to the Black Lives Matter movement. Hacktivists, armed with nothing but their skills and their convictions, have shown the world that anyone can make a difference. But like a double-edged sword, hacktivism can also cause harm. It can infringe upon privacy, disrupt services, and even lead to financial losses. It can be used as a weapon, not just by activists, but by those with malevolent intentions. The 2010 Stuxnet worm is a perfect example of this. A piece of malware so sophisticated it damaged Iran's nuclear program. While the intent might have been to prevent a potential threat, the act itself set a dangerous precedent. A world where cyber warfare is the norm, where countries fight not with bullets and bombs, but with lines of code. There's also the issue of collateral damage. When hacktivists target an organization, it's not just the organization that suffers. Innocent individuals can have their personal information exposed or their lives disrupted. The power of hacktivism lies in its ability to disrupt and create change. But like any power, it comes with great responsibility. It's a delicate balance, a tightrope walk between justice and chaos. And as we move deeper into the digital age, the impact of hacktivism will only grow. It's up to us, the denizens of this digital world, to ensure that this power is used wisely. Hacktivism sits at the crossroads of ethics and legality, but where do we draw the line? This question indeed poses an ethical conundrum. On one hand, hacktivism is seen as a noble pursuit, a digital form of civil disobedience, leveraging technology to champion causes and fight injustices. On the other hand, it's a practice that often involves breaching privacy, breaking laws, and potentially causing harm. Let's delve into this further. The supporters of hacktivism argue that it's a modern form of protest, a necessary tool in an increasingly digital world. They point out that it can expose corruption, protect freedom of speech, and give voice to the voiceless. For them, the ends justify the means. However, the critics see it differently. They argue that the very act of hacking is inherently unethical, regardless of the intent. They stress that it's a violation of privacy, a breach of trust, and often a legal transgression. They also point out the potential for collateral damage. A hacktivist attack on a corporation, for instance, can inadvertently affect innocent individuals and employees. Then there's the murky middle ground, where the line between right and wrong blurs. What about hacktivists who expose harmful actions, but in doing so break laws themselves? Do two wrongs make a right? What about the potential for misuse? With such power at their fingertips, how can we ensure hacktivists won't be tempted to use it for personal gain or malicious intent? These questions are not easy to answer, and the debate rages on. Some advocate for regulation and oversight, while others fiercely protect the autonomy and anonymity that hacktivism thrives on. So we find ourselves in a complex web of ethics, legality, and morality. As society becomes more digitized, and as technology continues to evolve, these questions will only become more pressing. In the end, the ethics of hacktivism boil down to a question of perspective, but the debate is far from over. This is a conversation we must continue, as the implications of our collective decision will shape the digital landscape for years to come. As we look ahead, the future of hacktivism hangs in the balance. The world is becoming more digitized, more connected, and consequently, more vulnerable. In this landscape, hacktivism may evolve in ways we can barely predict. Consider the potential developments. As artificial intelligence advances, we might see the rise of autonomous hacktivist bots, programmed to disrupt systems in the name of a cause. The Internet of Things, connecting everyday objects to the web, could become a new frontier for hacktivist exploits. On the darker side, the line between hacktivism and cyberterrorism could blur, with the power to cripple infrastructure or spread disinformation. However, these possible futures aren't inevitable. They depend on the challenges hacktivism faces and how we respond to them. Existing legislation is often ill-equipped to deal with the complex ethical and legal questions hacktivism raises. Will we see a crackdown, with governments worldwide tightening cyber laws and increasing surveillance? Or will we see a more nuanced approach, recognizing the potential of hacktivism to expose corruption and champion transparency? These challenges are not just legal, but technical. Cybersecurity is a constantly evolving field. As defenses improve, so must the tactics of hacktivists. They'll need to stay ahead of the curve, mastering new technologies and techniques. And with the stakes so high, the margin for error will be razor thin. Policy and regulation will play a crucial role in shaping the future of hacktivism. The decisions we make today will determine whether hacktivism becomes a force for good, a tool of chaos, or something in between. It's a delicate balancing act between protecting our digital societies and preserving the spirit of dissent that drives hacktivism. In the face of an uncertain future, the world watches as the saga of hacktivism continues to unfold. Will you be a spectator or will you join the conversation?